Well, yeah, we made it to another Viva Fresh. Although, this time it feels a little different. I'm scratching my head. I just can't put my finger on it. Can you think what it might be that's different this
Well, look
time?
around.
I'm like,
I
well,
mean, what do you
I'm
want?
looking around and I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
You
I
need
don't
my
know.
glasses or no? I mean, we're not in the lobby between like
The
the
toilet.
men's room
Remember,
and
we,
the.
we we were so close to the
Well, I mean, I'm
toilet
trying to
last.
keep it clean. Women's room, men's room, ladies' room, men's room. Yeah, that's where we're at last year. So, no, we're smack dab in the middle of the expo floor. So, awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. And Viva Fresh is close to you and I. It's in a special place in our heart.
Sure.
Being from the very front of this thing, they've been so good to us. The show, the Fresh Cred, it's been a great partnership, and again, it's been good to be part of it. We're beyond thrilled to be here, be able
Yep.
to attend, be able to do this from the show floor, and be part of it. So it's been great.
Yeah, and for those of you listening, you're going to hear from sponsors, guests, individuals today, which without we couldn't be here. We definitely want to thank them. Colimex, B&M Avocados, IFCO, Full Tilt Marketing, Santis Produce, Sunfed, Splendid, and Produce Careers.
Well, thank you, Viva Fresh. Thank you, all of our sponsors, and thank you, Ed.
And thank you, Craig.
And thank you, Ed, for being such a good friend.
You're so thankful.
And enjoy the show. All right. Well, Ed doesn't like for me to be surprised that we're back. So, hey, we're back, and nobody's excited or surprised. Right? Is that
We're
better?
just going to have to Google some options.
I don't know. I don't know how we're back.
How about just welcome
How did
back?
Johnny Carson
How
do
about
it? How did
welcoming
Johnny
people
Carson?
back? That's
Welcome who?
That's also very
What's
like
very good?
egocentric that we're back. Like,
We,
how about welcome back? Welcoming people back.
You know this show? Welcome back to the
Is that
place.
welcome back, Carter.
That is what.
Yeah. Okay.
I know. I just tapped the table. I just freaking violated rule number 1. All right.
We're gonna do a tap jar next time. We're gonna have a jar, and every tap is gonna be $5.
Oof.
It's gonna get expensive right here in the middle. Let me just tell you.
Yeah.
All right.
I like tapping.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, hey, we have with us Bobby Grinstead comes to us from Fresh Edge.
Welcome.
Welcome
Thank
here.
you for being here.
Yeah.
No, thank you for having me. Appreciate
And
it.
welcome, I guess technically back to Texas for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you don't reside here like myself any longer, but were you born and raised here?
Yeah, born and raised, born in Houston, and then pretty young moved up to Dallas. So glad to be back. I've lunched both days, gone out for barbecue. It's what I missed the most out of Texas, I think, or one of the most. So it's been good.
Yeah.
Nice to be back.
Now, so Colorado Springs, right?
Yes.
All right. So Colorado Springs, do you have a smoker there? Have you put in a smoker so you
yeah.
can impress the neighbors?
I have an offset smoker. I only get
That's
to
where
it
you live now?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Have you ever been?
I think I'm in love again.
Hopefully
That's
not.
a good spot for me. I get tired about Colorado Springs when I go to northwestern Colorado on my annual hunting trip.
Okay.
So if you have space for
I was gonna say,
truck and a
Ed's
small
now-
trailer,
now you're
just an
about to get it.
overnight spot. I mean, I'll be out before you go to work.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, it's
We'll talk about it
incredible.
later. You don't have to say no now or yes now. We can totally talk about it later.
It's a hard maybe. Yeah.
hard maybe. I love it.
Yeah, I'd have stuck with just a hard no because he literally will take that maybe and run with it.
No, you're just gonna find me in your driveway. Like, hey, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah. So but anyway, so you do have a smoker, but you haven't had a chance to use it much.
No, I go for like the 12-hour brisket, and I have 3 little ones, so it's a little hard every once in a while to take a full day, crack a few maybe, but yeah, I love it. I love barbecue, and I really miss Texas barbecue.
Yeah. No, for
That's
sure.
the only cooking I can do because it's hard to screw up. If you want it better, just leave it on longer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hell of a concept.
Don't tell everybody that
What?
because people think if you cook good brisket, you're like a master cook.
Oh, I'm not. I know I'm not.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm not either.
Okay.
But I can.
Low
cook
and
a
slow,
brisket.
though, that's kind of hard to mess up.
It is kind of hard to mess it up. People do though.
Yeah.
I've had some bad briskets.
Have you really?
I have. Oh yeah.
Interesting.
But you got to learn that people don't realize how slow and low you need to be.
I don't do the whole rapping thing either. Like after you cook it for so long and then wrap it and then
Throw
put
it in an ice chest.
Yeah, no.
Sit around.
I have a friend that's lent me a rig that will do 16 briskets.
Oh
Jeez.
man.
I mean, it's a big rig,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
just the tower. Like you still have like 100-gallon tank, grill, and then the fire box. I mean, it's a rig. It's huge. And he's lent it to me for parties before, and I've done as many as 8. But again, I just
Wow.
put them on the very top and let them cook all day, and put a bunch of brown sugar on them, or pepper and mustard and whatever Callie gave me to do.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they came out awesome.
Oh.
Anyway,
Well, I'm a cheater.
I sidetracked you.
I'm a cheater. I bought a Traeger, and it's even
Oh
more
my-
simple.
That's
Yeah.
not, dude.
It eats
Half
good.
the fun is like soaking the wood and the fire and the smell. And
It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. I
No,
didn't like the soak in the wood. I didn't like all that came with that. There's a lot of work involved.
It's a ton of work, and that's why it's like I like doing it. But like I said, I only think I did it like 3 times last year. So it's like I'm sure if I had a Traeger,
Just
I'd
be
eat
a
lot
cheater.
more,
Get a
which
Traeger.
I'm not sure is a good thing or not.
Yeah. I just be a cheater and get a Traeger. That's my
there
advice.
was a
on the whole
guy on
deal.
YouTube. I guess it's hard to sear meat on a Traeger because it only goes up so high. So he had like, I don't know, he went and deactivated something, took out some kind of restrictor that it had in it so that he could sear the damn meat. I'm like, dude, you're working harder than you have to. I mean, honestly, recently, I had a pan-seared steak, and it'll stink up your house. I mean, you find out how to do it outside. We have a burner on our pit, so
Yeah.
actually a lot of restaurants, in a cast iron skillet, a steak, heck, that's like the way to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, in your house, it can.
But you got to get that dude hot.
It's got to be
Real
hot.
hot.
It's got to be hot, and
Yeah.
that's hard to do. And I still struggle with, once it's on the plan, getting everything to come off with it with the steak. Have you got that figured out?
Without leaving the steak behind.
Without leaving, well, at least.
Well, I mean, these guys on
most
on
im-
Instagram are like constantly bathing it in butter. Now we're getting way down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, we
really.
are. I don't even know that. Yeah, this was none of the questions we talked about, was it?
No.
Brisket wasn't even part of it. So this is how the show works. We absolutely have no idea what direction we're going to go, what we're going to talk about.
No, I'm excited to see what trouble we'll get
Well,
into.
that's
then.
exactly right,
Yeah.
and we could get in some for sure. All right, but let's. So Fresh Edge, food service retail. What do you guys do there at Fresh Edge?
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything. So, company's broken down about 2/3 of its food service, about 1/3 of its retail. We have 4 processing divisions and a USDA meal prep facility. So, it's been really nice from my point of view, being able to reach out to growers and things like that and shippers and just kind of offer a house for any products that they have, frankly. So, it's been good.
And how many locations you guys have?
I think we have 9 distributors within network, mostly concentrated in the Midwest through Tennessee. We do have a facility in Florida and Alabama and an operation in Houston, but mostly kind of in that Midwest corridor going
Gotcha.
down.
Gotcha. So, and you guys are in the news a lot, still actively doing some acquisitions, I believe.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be a really interesting process. We swapped equity partners about 6 months ago.
Swapped out what? I'm sorry.
Equity partners.
Equity partners, gotcha,
Are
yeah.
private equity backed. We swapped them out. We'd outgrown our previous one. So we kind of moved on and we found a new group that's really interested in working and growing with us. So yeah, no, it's been a lot, and there'll be a ton of consolidation, I think, in the next 6 months, year. Not even just us, just industry-wide distributors. It's gonna be a pretty crazy time.
And of course, Sunfed, we were part of one of those acquisitions. We're part of the Grub Market family,
Sure.
and I believe exactly what you're talking about. I think for this business, that's a direction we're having to go, right? In order for businesses to be able to come together and start to make money and survive some of this stuff, I think consolidation. Go ahead.
No, and I think I really like. I think actually, as we kind of talk about it, some of our business model was similar to Grubs and you, where we're putting a high premium on keeping the companies independent, keeping their personalities together, things like that with it, and just being able to offer them some new resources. So probably somewhat similar.
Very
All the
similar.
companies with under us have kept their original names, original management, all those type of things on it. We really don't want to mess with what's made those companies and the special sauce that they all seem to have.
But man, there is a lot of money pouring into the food space, produce space, but the controlled environment,
Yep,
ag stuff.
definitely.
What do you think about that?
From which, I mean, there's just a ton of money coming into
Yeah.
it. And it seemed like when interest rates started going up, it slowed down for a little bit, and then it's kind of picked right back up. So a lot of people are interested. I think everybody kind of sees this as a good opportunity. Everybody eats, and so there's a lot of dynamics that maybe are able to get straightened out from our supply chains. But sometimes I think people are half crazy on
Yeah,
it.
yeah. You
It's
look at it.
just,
Yeah, we look at this stuff, and
uh,
it seems like, oh my gosh, now, for you guys, do you do much with in that space?
Uh, not so much on the growing side of it. We started reaching out, and especially with how transition might look for this year for certain items and things. We've started working with it, but as far as I know, with Fresh Edge, we haven't really started investing in any type of like grow houses or
Gotcha.
anything like that.
Gotcha.
We're trying to just kind of stay focused and be as good as we can, kind of in our space, and just make sure that we're aligning with good partners on the sides of us, so that we can all kind of rise together.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So where are we at now that we're at the other side? You guys, I know, had a lot of restaurant business during the pandemic, and were heavily affected by that and the shutdown. Where are things today?
Everything's been going really well. What's odd is more recently we've kind of found the retail side a little softer for us than the food service has been for this last few months on it. Usually we kind of expect in January everybody's trying to eat clean, New Year's resolutions, things like that with it, and we usually kind of get ready for a really clean, healthy retail. And it didn't seem, and we've been kind of looking at this, and everybody's been talking about the recession that's coming and how it's going to affect things and stuff like that, but all of our companies in food service are above pre-pandemic levels at this point.
So you follow this more than I do, I'm sure. Pre-COVID, I remember seeing some statistics that pre-COVID, the consumption was about 50-50 retail versus food service. Obviously, during COVID, food service went way down. I mean, when you say it came back, or you think just generically or generally, you think we're back to 50-50, or is it, does the scale tip the other way?
So right now, our food service is kind of the strongest, and this fluctuates, and this is why
I mean, as like a total market,
they've
total
been
nationwide.
pretty
type
good.
thing.
I mean, people just inflation's happened. Stuff is more expensive to eat at restaurants, but our numbers are showing that it hasn't stopped people from going to a restaurant.
Wow.
And it's something that we try and keep an eye on, because whenever a recession's coming or we think it's about to come, we usually expect it to shift back into the retail side of it. So it might come, but so far it's been pretty steady on our side.
Yeah, that was a curious question for me, and I'm curious of that too. Although, if I think about it, my own personal life, I've probably spent more in restaurants in the last 12, 15 years, or 12, 15 months,
Yeah.
than I did the post. And based on what I see at the restaurants, it looks like that, you know, other people are spending the same way, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious about that, because I'm like you. It's a 50-50, you know, 50% of every dollar consumer food wise. It's almost 51%, I think, what food service was before the pandemic. Obviously, it dropped dramatically during it, but I'd be curious to know. And
Yeah, and it's something that we're trying not to take it granted and really doing it, because when COVID hit, that was a pretty terrifying time for us. Just with inventory, what do you do with that? Luckily, we had Indianapolis Fruit that really helped us kind of pump through the retail side of it and help. But the receivables were really scary there for a little while on just what a restaurant's going to do in 30 days when they have no customers type
Yeah.
of thing. So it was pretty scary, but I think it actually made our company a little bit stronger on rethinking how we want to approach things. And even through COVID with like labor or something, you only have X number of drivers. How are you going to do this? And how are you going to pick your
It was
spots? Things like that.
There was some crafty stuff going on. I mean, there was a lot of distributors that were doing mixed boxes of fruit and veg, or mixed boxes of eggs and meat, and HEB, for example, early on started partnering with local restaurants, and they were providing prepared meals, from local restaurants. I think Alamo Cafe was one of them. I hope I'm not wrong there, but anyway, so that was interesting, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, not every restaurant has that type of either ability or connection, but that was kind of an example of some extraordinary activities that happened during COVID.
Yeah. Craig, how's the last 6 months or everything been for you guys?
the this first quarter of last year, if you go back and look at last year, we were really just across the industry. Production struggled in our space. In that January, probably January, February, but first quarter of last year was difficult.
Yeah.
Really difficult, really from a production side, and really prices didn't reflect. Although they were better, they didn't reflect enough. Input costs was impacting everybody back then. We hadn't had a chance to adjust to the impact of the input costs. Fast forward to this year, and it's dramatically different. But I think a lot of that is, yeah, the input costs are still high. Yeah, everybody's still struggling with it, but it's one of those things where everybody's been able to adjust. Production numbers are up dramatically over where we were at last year, and markets have been reasonably good across all spaces. So,
Right.
yeah, first quarter, honestly, yeah, finishing out last year, fourth quarter, you said 6 months, last quarter and first quarter this year, it looks healthy, right? It looks good. It looks healthy. We'll see how it goes. It's one of those things where in this business, you just enjoy it when it's, when it's reasonably good. You know the other shoe's coming, right? And you're like, enjoy it. Although,
Sure.
you ask about that. When you look at our space and so all the rains they've had in California, and it's obvious what's happened to the berry guys and even the lettuce guys right now. But you start to look at the stuff like the bell peppers in Coachella. You start to look at, those rains have delayed plantings in a big way, right? And
It's a domino effect. Or
it is, and it's delayed.
The butterfly effect, right?
Yeah.
But it's a delayed, and we're not even sure, what it looks like. But we still think that there's some going to be some challenges on production as we get into the summertime.
Absolutely.
And markets will probably reflect some of the struggles. Well, I don't know. I don't see inflation abating too much inside the produce department. And worst part of it is if you look at the numbers, what's getting reported right now, the packages are going down. You got consumers buying less product, which that's what happens when prices go higher.
Yep.
They switch out. So
it's kind of like they're making clothes bigger. Consumer packages go down. You said, never mind. I was talking to somebody the
you
other
went
day.
somewhere else.
I totally went somewhere else,
yeah.
but because honestly, clothes are being made bigger. So, but we can talk about that another day.
Funny.
Yeah.
My clothes aren't being made bigger.
No, in general, I think as an industry,
Yeah.
they're making clothes bigger, so you think you're still the same size, but the reality is you're not.
You're not.
Oh,
Yeah. So a 34 is not a 34 anymore.
Interesting.
I guarantee it because I
Well,
purchased.
how can that even be? That's math. 34 inches
No,
is
it's not.
34 inches.
It's the size. It's not the inches. Believe me, it's not.
So have you
Alright.
pulled out like an old pair of pants and tried to?
No, so there's a specific brand of hunting gear that I use, and
Okay.
it runs small or it runs true to size, and they tell you when you order it, measure yourself. And I measured myself, and it's true. My waist is 2 inches bigger than my pant size.
Huh.
Like my pant size is 34, but my waist is 36. And it's true. They're like, I think clothes are being made bigger. It's kind of psychological. It's like a psychological, marketing tactic or something like that. but
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's
rabbit hole.
something, yeah.
Rabbit hole alert.
Rabbit hole, but that, you know what? I wasn't sure where you were going with that whole thing. I mean, I'm not sure how we got there, but
Me neither.
meanwhile,
It
back
just
at the
sometimes
ranch.
things just trigger. Sorry.
So,
But labor, transport, I want to talk about that.
No,
'cause
yeah,
we haven't
you-
talked
you-
about that
that-
at
I-
all
that's good.
today. Well, no, I mean, labor continues to be, we've, as a company, my day job with IFCO, we've invested millions of dollars in automation because labor, particularly in those markets where we operate, where we have, highly competitive labor pools, it's very difficult. And we continue to struggle with labor and invest a ton of money in automation. So I wouldn't say it's slow going. I mean, we're on pace, right, to convert the facilities, but that and transport, I think the last numbers I saw was like the load to truck ratio was like 1.85 to 1. I mean, that scares me more than anything. That, like, I grew up in the trucking business. I drove a semi at 12 years old. I was on the road cross country at 18.
Wild.
and
That doesn't happen
He drove
anymore.
a truck when he was 12 years old, and they're worried about automated trucks driving down the road. I mean,
Out in a field, dude. My dad would just turn me loose with one, but not on
there's
the
nobody
road.
going to arrest you
Not
at
on
this
the road.
point, bro.
Okay, no, it's fine. But seriously, like, there's just not that many opportunities to do that kind of stuff anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm super concerned about what transportation looks like in the future. Through the scholarship fund, Viva Scholarship Fund, we are offering scholarships to not only students at four-year universities, but also, trade schools, as long as it's related to, the fresh food industry, produce industry. And, we need to do better about promoting that and seeing if we can get some folks interested. But it's a real concern. The transport part is, I think that's a harder thing to spool up than anything, because it's a skill, it takes experience, there's liability involved. I remember even back then, just to get insured, like to be covered on insurance, you'd have to be like 25 years old, right? So by then, who knows if somebody's interested in doing that kind of work, or that being in that line of work. So it's going to be tough. I don't know if we'll ever catch up. You can have all the trucks in the world, it's the drivers you don't have.
Yeah.
Right.
No, and it's kind of one of the interesting things about the process of figuring out and learning who Fresh Edge is and kind of going to be one day is how different all of our markets are. Where we found a lot more success hiring drivers in Houston than we did in Pittsburgh, and it kind of goes through all the other things. One of our companies, McCartney's in Paris, Tennessee, which has a population of like 9,000 people or something in it. So they have to hire a percentage of the city to fill and run all the roles in their operation and things like that with it. So we've really seen kind of a huge spectrum, all the way through like the Chicago market and it just being a totally different beast with different challenges. But driving is going to be hard. We see, one of the challenges we see for us is kind of across the board. So in procurement, I'm thinking a little bit more of like buyers or something like that. And that's even been a really hard thing to find these days, are really solid buyers who kind of understand the science and the art behind the business. And so it's like we have an ideal version of how we want our structure of our companies to look at and kind of work within. But at times the challenge will be developing people fast enough, or else we'll have to kind of make different decision points based off of who's available. So I think it's trucking. I think it's internal.
What do you think about AI though? Is that, you think that's really, maybe don't speculate your lifetime, but maybe in Craig's lifetime, will we see AI like semis? I don't think we've seen them yet.
I don't know.
Or maybe in California.
I did hear Tesla just like actually started rolling out their electric cars, but Tesla's even put their hand up saying we weren't as quick as we thought we'd be.
There has to be a remote pilot. A remote, and I say pilot because I saw recently, I think there has to be a remote pilot component. I saw the other day on Instagram where there was a mining operator. He was running like whoever the pilots that run drones like for the military. So he was in a cockpit somewhere, obviously in a building, and he was running a front end loader at a mine using the same kind of setup. So there's that. I think the human failsafe is still gonna need to be some sort of transition.
I completely disagree.
It
is coming, and it's going to come and be here faster than everybody thinks. It just is. I've been saying for years. I'm going to keep saying it.
You know what they say? If you keep saying it, it eventually comes true, and then you look like a genius.
I
want a time. Give me a deadline.
Well, I've been making the statement for many years. I got two granddaughters, 8 and 5, I believe, and then I got one that's 1. So 3 granddaughters. You're right. But I was making the comment about the other 2 when they were younger. I was like, they will, I don't think, ever learn to drive.
I had the same comment. So I have a son who's 5 years old right now. And I was talking to somebody about, how is it, your kid starting to drive and going through that process and get the license. And they're like, he's not going to need to know how to drive.
Yeah.
Like by the time he's 16, you're just going to jump in a car and it's going to move you around. I don't know if we're going to be there, but
I saw a post of a stick shift transmission that said millennial anti-theft device or something.
Hey, that's good. I like that. That's marketable right there.
It was awesome, man.
Well, and you got to think too, right? One of the things that Tesla's talked about doing is creating, which I think is if I were a car company guy, I'd already be down this path. But they're talking about building, robo-cabs, robo-taxis, right? That just roll around with no driver, because the kids today, they're a shared economy. We've got Uber now, right? People sharing other people's cars. It's a natural progression. Think about what it costs to own a car.
Yeah.
Right?
It's ridiculous.
From insurance to having a place to park it, to that just goes on. And why would somebody waste that kind of money for potentially the drive time? If you do the math, you could probably take a lot of mobile taxis if there's nobody driving it riding around. So that's where I think the world's going to go, is to something like that.
Well, and I think like another version of that I've heard through Tesla is that, you have your Tesla car, you drive it to work, you park at work, and then it takes off after you're at work and it's running around picking people up. And so all of a sudden it kind of changes the dynamic from a car being a depreciating asset to a revenue generating asset. So it's like, I think that's kind of an interesting angle.
I'd
on
sign
it.
up for that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Right.
Keep your hands off of my
Sign up for that.
assets.
Yeah.
No one's
Yeah.
driving my truck, damn it.
Yeah. And when we talk about AI, I think, since I've been around, and especially, we have like such amazing leadership at Fresh Edge that have really been around the business for a long time. And we kind of talk about what's the blend today between the science and the art, and what do we want to push for it. And we've kind of said it where it's, maybe 80-85% science today. And the last piece of it is the art. And it seems like maybe that pendulum has swung over the last 20 years, kind of more science based. So I wouldn't be surprised maybe if there's a little bit farther for that to go. But I think I agree that there's a human element to this, and especially in produce, where no matter if you're tracking weather patterns, you can track a million different things, and it might be a revolution somewhere, in South America that actually affects it back up. And so it's just so much information that I think having people in that process to be able to either throw gas or pump the brakes on something is going to be really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think retailers, even with e-commerce and how far it's come,
Sure.
I will say, I mean, it's a good example of how, even with the human factor involved, there's differences in preferences and not the swear jar, but
$5.
the
I'd
bump
eat
jar, or
five
whatever
bump
that's
jar,
called.
$5 to you, buddy.
But even with the human factor involved, it's hard to get consistency, right? I'm talking about order selecting process.
Mm-hmm.
So it's. Yeah, I don't know. I don't agree with Craig on the AI thing, but hopefully I'm wrong.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I know
We're
it's
not going to bridge that
extreme-
gap of the almost 2-to-1 load to truck ratio. I mean, how are we going to do that?
Yeah.
But the whole concept behind the guys driving it from a remote location makes a ton of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And people and video games and the ability to control. Man, the technology there, that now you're still not depending on a machine. You got a human being that's got some control, and you could actually have it complemented by an actual computer on board that does the most of it. But you just got somebody there that's like an air traffic controller, right?
Yeah.
Fine tuning it, checking in. If they get in a spot, something goes on. It's doable. There's a lot of smart people out there. They're gonna figure this out.
Yeah.
And
I
don't
think the
know if it's so
barometer
much
on it.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say I still go back to liability. I mean, there are actuaries that are out there, I'm sure, working on this right now. That's like the first fatality. Like it's gonna be. I mean,
oh, Tesla's already killed several people. So.
And they're still building spaceships.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the safety will be the crux of it. And I know we're kind of going off, but I think the safety, to your point, will stall the process for a little bit. But at the first moment when they're able to prove this is actually a safer way to drive than people driving cars, I think it'll flip possibly the other way pretty quick.
okay, that's a good point.
But I keep going back to, but if you're 5-year-old or my granddaughters, and you've never known a life, if in other words, when it's not new to you, when it's what world you spent your time looking at a screen, you spent your time with automation, with AI, and you get to that point, it's not going to be something that they're afraid of, right? They're not going to be. The people that are going to be afraid are people in our generation that have some sort of a reflection point or a place back in time that we can reflect back on. So I don't know. I could be wrong, but I mean, I just see all the signs. I see all the signs pointing to it, and kind of what started the conversation off was, there's just not going to be the labor there to support what needs to be done. I mean, there's no doubt there are fewer Uber and Lyft drivers today than before the pandemic, right? There just is.
Yeah.
The labor market is absolutely crazy tight for service industry, for drivers, for things like that. So I just think there's just not enough humans to do, and they're going to have another solution, whether you believe in it or not. So anyway, wow. All right, so I don't know. I can't tell.
We're just
from
gonna have to do a part 2.
we can do
This
it.
is we need to get way further down the road.
And there's so much
with-
hand waving going on behind the production crew. I can't tell if we're supposed to be wrapping up. If
No,
I've
we're,
got
we're
something.
supposed to be wrapping up.
I
yeah.
got my hair's messed up. I don't know exactly what's going on here. So
We're supposed to be wrapping up, but maybe Bobby will join us on a later date.
think that's possible, Bobby. Think
No,
we'll get
yeah, I
you back,
appreciate you guys
know?
having me.
Yeah, for sure. Now we'll.
From the comfort of your home in
Hey.
Colorado Springs, the one with
No.
a spacious driveway.
Okay. Not during the week on your hunting trip. So that's what Ed's going to. We're going to be doing in the front yard of your home in Colorado Springs the week of Ed's hunting trip. So.
Be like Christmas Vacation when the brother-in-law shows up,
Yeah.
Randy Quaid, with the Winnebago.
Yeah, pump out your Winnebago when you pull up. Oh
All
God,
right, let's get a pic.
Ed's here.
Oh, anyway.
All right, so I guess we're gonna wrap up here.
All
So,
right.
thanks for joining
I'm glad
us.
we solved all the
Yeah,
problems.
we solved
needed
so
to
many
today,
problems
yeah.
here, and we'll take this out of here. And like I say, we'll see you next time on part 2, Bobby. Thank you, bunch.
Thanks,
buddy.
Bobby.
Appreciate it. Good luck, guys.
Yeah, we'll see you, man.